Today we're going to be talking about 3 great 21st century Batman.
No, not that Batman.
It could be. You never know. Normally when we talk about Batman, put that figure there, sorry. Normally when we talk about Batman, we talk about the classic stories of the 80s. Well, we do anyway.
We always do.
Yeah, so we usually talk about Death in the Family, or we talk about
Killing Joke.
The Killing Joke. We talk about Batman The Dark Knight Returns. We talk about Batman Year One. And those are all great stories, and we will definitely talk about them on here at some point. Today, though, we thought it would be interesting to focus on 3 great stories that were published in the 21st century.
And stuff you can find fairly easily right now.
Stuff that's a little easier to find, especially if you're going to get collected editions. Okay? So, first up, Batman Whatever Happened to the Caped Crusader.
So what did happen to the Caped Crusader?
Well, this is really interesting. This is written by Neil Gaiman.
The great Neil Gaiman.
Fantastic comic book writer, novelist, screenwriter, great person extraordinaire.
He is.
Illustrated by Andy Kubert, who's really good, and who did a bang-up job in this, and I'll get to that in just a minute. This was originally conceived as an idea in a conversation between Neil Gaiman, Kurt Busiek, and Kurt Busiek's wife. Kurt Busiek's another comic book writer. They were on a road trip to go visit Scott McCloud, who is a comic book artist and writer.
Scott McCloud's books.
Yeah. And they brought up, somebody brought up the idea of what would be a really good ending story for Batman.
They would end Batman?
They would end it. The last Batman story.
Not going to happen.
Right? So what happened was Gaiman kind of pitched this idea. Okay? Then when DC approached Gaiman and asked him to do a last Batman story, he was very, very excited because he already had the idea. Now, this story follows events in the Grant Morrison Batman R.I.P. and the Final Crisis, the Justice League story, Final Crisis.
We talked about that in the last episode.
Yes, we did. Wherein Batman dies. He's killed by Darkseid. Or at least we think he is. Right? And this story is a sort of surrealistic take on what it would be like if Batman died. You have Batman having a conversation with an unseen person. And he's asking what happened. There's a wake in Crime Alley. And all of his rogues gallery and all of his supporting characters show up to attend the wake. And it's him in the coffin, in costume. And every member who's there gets up and tells a story about how Batman died. And every story is different. And you don't know which one is the real story. How did he really die? You have a Catwoman's version, you have Alfred's version, you have the Joker's version, you have a few different things that all occur. And you don't really know what's real. And it still has all the great sort of thoughtful storytelling that Neil Gaiman is known for, plus a lot of weird spirituality. And what he really does is he kind of makes an amalgam of the history of Batman for 70 years, dealing with different versions, different ideas. And like he does with the Sandman, he kind of synthesizes all of that into one mythology.
And it originally appeared in 2 issues, two regular issues.
2 regular issues. It was Batman 686 and Detective Comics 835.
That's correct. Sounds about right.
So, and
if not, we'll correct it.
We'll correct it. Yeah, and if you get the collected version like this, it has a couple of extra stories in there
from Secret Origin,
Batman Black and White. Couple of interesting stuff.
A little bit added to it because usually when they make these, they usually use 4 or 5 issues. That's only 2
to kind
issues.
Of fill it out.
So they had to bulk it up a little bit. So.
Right. So Andy Kubert did a fantastic job of imitating art from different time periods. So sometimes the art looks like Carmine Infantino, who's known for like
Flash.
The 60s.
The famous Flash.
Yeah, and the 60s sort of pop Batman. And then there's stuff that looks like Jerry Robinson, which is one of the earlier Batman artists. Stuff that looks like Bob Kane's drawings, like from way back, the beginning. The original artist of the character. It's just a great story because you look at a character who means as much as Batman does to a lot of people. How would you possibly summarize?
How would you get rid of him?
Right.
What would be the end of Batman?
And I think they do a fantastic job of that.
Good.
Next up, we have a much...
He's doing 3. That was 1.
Yeah. Even more recent, Batman 3 Jokers.
Interesting story.
Which you can get in a really nice hardcover edition.
Not really happy with how it ended, but
No, not crazy
we won't
about
talk
how
about that. We don't want to ruin
We're
it
not
for
going to
you,
give away
but-
the ending. But this stems from ideas from two different places. Well, from actually a few different places. Killing Joke, the famous 1980s
And
story.
DC lives in a multiverse, so
Yeah.
a lot of their stories go multiversal on you. Like this
Well,
is really a.
The-
It's not.
Well, there's
it's
a lot
not
of
a
argument.
multiverse, but it's kind of bordering on that. There's 3 different Jokers.
There's a lot of argument about whether this is canon or not. Jeff Johns, the writer, says it is. And other people probably disagree. Well, like I said, Jeff Johns wrote it. It's illustrated by Jason Fabok.
It could easily be made into a movie also, because it's a very. It could do what they're doing now with the DC movies. It could take the 3 different types of Jokers, and Jokers plays 3 different roles: the comedian, the killer.
Right. Just like they do with Whatever Happened to Cape Crusader, you have sort of a survey of the way the Joker's been portrayed over
And
70
he's
years.
changed over the years.
So there's the criminal, who's like the bank robber Joker. He's this one here.
He's the one we probably see the most in popular, culture, on the cartoons and the really popular comic books from years ago. The Joker, the one who's always laughing. He's the crime prince, right?
Right. Yeah, the clown prince of crime.
Right.
Then there's the you have the comedian, the clown, who is the sort of middle Joker, the one with all the crazy pranks, and he's goofy, and think like the 66 series.
Yeah.
Then you have the comedian, which is the last one. The comedian is the really sadistic psycho killer one, the one from Dark Knight Returns.
The one that's been developing over the years. The one
the
we see
Dark
more
Knight,
nowadays.
Ledger, things like that. Yeah. It's a great story. Oh, it also stems from Death in the Family because Jason Todd is a really important character in here.
Who dies in Death of the Family.
Yeah, he's killed in Death in the Family and
He's back
returns.
now,
He
though.
returns as Red Hood.
Yes.
He's Red Hood in here. This is really good. It's a very, very good
It was a
story.
good series. Ending was, it could have been better.
Yeah, it's a little, the ending was a little odd. Finally, for our little exploration of 21st century Batman stories.
All things you can buy at your local comic shop right now.
Easily available. Yeah, that
Or
was
on
the idea.
Amazon.
A, they would be recent, and B, they'd be easily available.
Yeah, and not really highly priced either.
This one's a little off the track because it's not exactly a Batman story. Batman's in it, but it's not the real Batman, or at least it's not when Batman's real.
Right.
This takes place in our world, the real world. This is Dark Knight by Paul Dini. Now, Paul Dini is a screenwriter and producer, mostly worked on the old series of DC animated series. He wrote and produced the Batman animated series.
And because it's a Vertigo, it's a little bit more on the
Mature side. Now, this is an autobiographical story. Paul Dini was, way back when, in the early 90s, mugged by a group of men who beat him near to death. He almost died. And this tells the story about how Batman and the Joker, as alternating parts of his own psyche, kind of aided or held back his recovery from that.
Like many of us, Batman has gotten us through the hard times.
Exactly. This is a really emotional, really heartfelt story that is one of those things that you could put up there with real hard literature. It's excellent, excellent stuff. It's, again, like I said, it's not really a Batman story, except that it is. And if you read it, give it a chance. It's really good. It's illustrated by Eduardo Risso, who is a really very,
Who
very
I've met a number of
talented-
times, really nice guy.
Very,
Does
very
some
talented.
really excellent work for DC over the years.
Yeah. So you got 3 choices here. You've got the sort of emotional, literate, sort of heartfelt story of Dark Knight. You've got the twisted, strange version of 3 Jokers. And you've got the what if Batman died? What kind of story would we get? So there you go. 3 worthwhile readings for a Batman in the 21st century. What do you think?
I think it was good.
Remember, as always,
Love what you collect.
collect what you love.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
If you want to see more Batman, leave a comment. We'll get as much Batman out there as we can.
Oh, I got plenty of Batman.
Thanks for all you that subscribe. We'll see you next time.
Bye.